1970s, heart of Africa, Uganda. President Milton Obote has just left the country for a Commonwealth conference in Singapore. In his absence, his most trusted general makes a move. Idi Amin Dada, once a cook and soldier in the British colonial army, an ex-boxer, a man who never finished school but holds a doctorate in violence, seizes power through a military coup. At first, Amin proclaims himself a savior. He promises to restore democracy, to hold free elections. Tired of Obote's rule, Ugandans dance in the streets. The West applauds. But then, just 1 week later, Idi Amin changes his mind and crowns himself president. From that moment, one of the strangest figures in modern history begins his rule. A man who jokes to his people, "You can have freedom of speech, but I cannot guarantee your freedom after speech," and means it. With political opponents vanishing overnight and journalists found floating in the Nile, the bodies of his enemies begin filling morgues, and, according to rumor, the best parts of their bodies, his own freezer. Yet while blood runs through Uganda, Amin is busy sending telegrams to London, praising the British monarchy, then mocking the empire, then declaring, "I'm the King of Scotland." A man who decorates himself with endless medals, claims divine dreams. A man who turned against the West, and later, in the middle of a disastrous war with Tanzania, challenged its president, knowing he was about to lose the war, to settle the conflict with a boxing match instead. Through it all, a man who gave himself titles no man could earn, His Excellency, President for Life, Field Marshal Al-Haji, Dr. Idi Amin Dada, VC, DSO, MC, CBE, conqueror of the British Empire in Africa in general and Uganda in particular.
Only come here for 5 minutes. I have come as a president of the Republic of Uganda, and also I am speaking as a great man who is the conqueror of the British Empire.
A man who congratulated his ministers for having the most women managers in Africa.
I think we are the first now country in Africa today who have got many women managers than other countries. We have got how many manager women? We have got 4 managers, and we have got another 2 assistant managers.
And who advised his doctors not to be too drunk in front of patients.
As a doctor, you must be very clean, very smart, behave very well like a person, and also you are not too drunk. You are the one who should advise the public. You should advise General Min not to drink. But if you drink very little, you feel very happy, very proud, and you talk to your people. That will be, I'm just advising you.
To the world, he was not just a comedy, but a full television series. Absurd, magnetic, impossible to ignore. To his people, the worst kind of nightmare. From cook to conqueror, from liberator to butcher, from dictator to exile, ending his days in Saudi Arabia, eating only oranges as a self-proclaimed fruitarian, responsible for the death of up to 500,000 people. This is the true story of Idi Amin Dada, or Big Daddy, as he liked to be called. 1950s. The British Empire is collapsing. In Africa especially, Britain is losing the largest share of its dominion. Rebellions and independence movements spread fast, tearing the empire apart and giving birth to new nations. To maintain control, Britain trains colonial armies made of locals, teaching them how to suppress their own people. Soldiers are ordered to burn villages, torture suspects, and execute rebels in public squares to crush resistance. In one of these units, the King's African Rifles, serves a man of South Sudanese, Nubian origins, Idi Amin Dada. In Somalia, he is sent to fight local insurgents. In Kenya, during the Mau Mau uprising, he earns his reputation by beating prisoners to death, slicing their ears, and by forcing suspects to dig their own graves. British officers praise him for being loyal, fearless, and merciless. That loyalty makes him rise fast. By 1959, he is a British colonial sergeant. By 1961, a lieutenant. When Uganda gains independence in 1962, his service to the British Empire ends, but not his military career. The new Ugandan government, in fact, keeps him and promotes him further. In 1964, Prime Minister Milton Obote names him deputy commander, and by 1966, army commander. That same year, Uganda's fragile government begins to crumble under corruption and tribal rivalries. The King of Buganda, Kabaka Mutesa II, declares his intent to secede from Uganda, refusing to obey the central government. Obote orders Amin to act. Amin surrounds the royal palace with tanks and artillery and opens fire, reducing it to rubble. The king flees into exile to London, marking the end of Uganda's ancient monarchy and the consolidation of Obote's absolute rule. For a time, Amin and Obote cooperate. Together, they organize smuggling routes, gold and ivory stolen from neighboring Congo, trafficked through Uganda by military convoys, exchanged for cash and weapons with Congolese rebels. It's a fortune, but Amin grows greedy. Without Obote's knowledge, he begins diverting army funds for himself, enriching loyal officers and recruiting soldiers from his own ethnic groups, South Sudanese and Nubian Muslims, in a country largely Christian and ethnically divided. In January 1971, Obote discovers the theft and plans to arrest him upon returning from a conference in Singapore. But before he can act, Amin strikes first. He seizes Kampala, the airport, the radio station, and the country. Obote flees to Tanzania. Thousands of Ugandans opposed to Amin also flee with him across the border. From Tanzania, Obote's loyalists regroup, rearm, and attempt to retake Uganda. Amin's forces crush them at the border. Thousands are killed. Inside Uganda, Amin orders the elimination of anyone suspected of loyalty to Obote. Teachers, journalists, civil servants, students. Victims are lined up and shot, beaten with hammers, strangled with barbed wire, and dumped into the Nile. With no political rivals left and the army fully under his control, Amin crowns himself President of Uganda. At first, the West welcomes him as a moderate man, the new strong man of East Africa. Obote, after all, had been unpopular for his socialist leanings and ties to the Soviet Union. Britain and Israel, in particular, embrace Amin. Israel trains Uganda's pilots, provides military advisors, and helps build Entebbe Airport, while Britain restores trade and aid. But soon Amin demands stuff, for free, as a reward for his loyalty. When Britain and Israel refuse, insisting he pay, his alliance with the West collapses overnight. In 1971, shortly after seizing power, Idi Amin visits Israel to meet Prime Minister Golda Meir. He asks for fighter jets, tanks, and rifles, all for free. Golda Meir, of course, politely refuses. Humiliated, Amin returns to Uganda, heartbroken and filled with resentment. In July 1972, he orders the Israeli embassy in Kampala closed, all Israeli advisors expelled, and all diplomatic ties cut, transforming overnight from one of Africa's most pro-Israeli leaders into one of its most hostile. That same year at the United Nations, Amin sends a telegram praising Adolf Hitler for having killed millions of Jews, but adds that what he did was not enough, calling Israel a nation of criminals.
I changed from Israeli alliance because Israeli are criminals.
Now needing new allies, Amin suddenly performs the Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca and reinvents himself as a champion of Muslim solidarity. He declares himself the defender of Islam in Africa, shifting allegiance from Israel and the West to the Arab world, to Muammar Gaddafi's Libya, which floods him with cash and weapons, to Saudi Arabia, which grants him loans and oil, and to the Palestine Liberation Organization, which opens training camps in Uganda. Then in August 1972 comes his revenge against Britain, a decision that will destroy Uganda's economy entirely. Amin claims that one night Allah appeared to him in a dream and ordered him to expel all Asians from the country. The next day, he signs a decree giving 90 days for all Asians to leave Uganda. At first, only Asians holding British passports are targeted. Within weeks, the order expands to include Indians, Pakistanis, and even Asians with Ugandan citizenship, a total of around 80,000 people. The rules change constantly. At first, they are told they may take a reasonable amount of property with them, roughly equivalent to a few $1,000s worth. But soon Amin limits it to just 100 Ugandan shillings per family, about $5 US. At roadblocks, soldiers rob them, beat them, force men to the ground while their wives and daughters are assaulted. Everything they own, homes, businesses, factories, is confiscated and handed to Amin's friends, ministers, and soldiers, most of whom have no idea how to run them. The result is instant economic collapse. These 80,000 people were doctors, merchants, bankers, engineers, and business owners. The backbone of Uganda's economy. Factories close overnight, shops stand empty, inflation soars, and the Ugandan shilling freefalls. Though the expelled Asians made up less than 1% of the population, they generated almost 90% of Uganda's tax revenue. After this, there is no functioning economy left, only subsistence agriculture. Yet Amin calls it an economic liberation. Britain, coordinating with India, Canada, and Kenya, airlifts the refugees out. The world condemns Amin, and Amin responds with jokes. After a devastating miners' strike in 1974 exposes the weakness of the British economy, Idi Amin seizes the moment to launch a parody campaign, the Save Britain Fund. Collection boxes appear in Ugandan shops to gather money, coffee, bananas, and cassava to send food to the starving Britons. At the same time, Amin sends mocking telegrams of sympathy to British Prime Minister Edward Heath, in which he begins calling himself the uncrowned King of Scotland, claiming, "Only the Scots truly understand me, since they too are oppressed by the British." In one telegram, he even congratulates Heath on his wife's excellent physique, adding that he hopes to one day visit London to personally congratulate her. By 1975, paranoia consumes Amin. Kampala fills with secret police. Ministers are arrested, officers executed under accusations of treason. The spectacle amusing the outside world hides the terror unfolding inside Uganda. Then, in 1976, comes the humiliation that defines his downfall. An Air France flight from Tel Aviv to Paris, with a stopover in Athens, is hijacked by 4 terrorists, 2 Palestinians and 2 Germans. After a brief stop in Benghazi, Libya, the plane continues into the heart of Africa and lands in Entebbe, Uganda. Amin rushes to the airport, waving, laughing, promising to mediate, assuring the world he is personally handling the situation. But in reality, he sides with the hijackers, allowing Ugandan soldiers to guard the terminal. The event becomes known as the Entebbe Raid, a story we've covered in detail in our dedicated documentary, which you can find here on our channel in brief. Using blueprints of the Entebbe terminal, which Israel itself had built years earlier, Mossad and the IDF plan one of the most daring rescue missions in modern history. On the night of July 3, 1976, Israeli commandos fly 4,000 kilometers across the Red Sea in Central Africa, landing in Entebbe under the cover of darkness. In just 90 minutes, they storm the terminal, kill all hijackers and Ugandan guards, and rescue 103 hostages. When Amin learns of the operation, he is enraged. He orders the murder of Dora Bloch, an elderly British-Israeli woman taken to a Kampala hospital after falling ill during the hijacking. For Amin, the Entebbe raid is an unbearable humiliation. In the aftermath, he vows revenge, boasting that Israel will pay, fantasizing about how he will strike Israel from within.
If I am to prepare the war against Israel completely, no, I don't want very many Army, Air Force, and the Navy, just very few, and strike inside Israel with the paratrooper, with everything completely. Yes, because you got to get there by paratrooper and also bombing by airplanes and having few squadron of suicide.
Soon after, Britain also cuts all remaining ties with Uganda. In this moment of failure, rather than admit defeat, Amin inflates his own myth, proclaiming himself His Excellency, President for Life, Field Marshal Al-Haji, Dr. Idi Amin Dada, VC, DSO, MC, CBE, Lord of all the beasts of the earth and fishes of the seas, King of Scotland, and conqueror of the British Empire in Africa in general and Uganda in particular, in which Al-Haji refers to his pilgrimage to Mecca. Doctor comes from an honorary degree he forced Makerere University to grant him. VC, DSO, and MC, the Victoria Cross, Distinguished Service Order, and Military Cross, are British military honors he never earned. And CBE is a title he invented himself, Conqueror of the British Empire. In daily life, he likes being called Big Daddy and even embraces Black Hitler, which he says best describes who my enemies are. While the West laughs at his absurd titles, inside Uganda, the name that truly defines him is the Butcher of Uganda. Bodies float down the Nile, devoured by crocodiles. Soldiers loot villages. The population lives in constant fear and poverty, with estimates ranging from 35 to 170 people dying every day, directly because of his regime throughout his 8 years in power. In a final act of madness in 1978, Amin makes the worst decision of his life. He invades Tanzania's Kagera region, claiming it rightfully belongs to Uganda, and accusing Tanzanian President Julius Nyerere of aiding Ugandan exiles plotting against him. Nyerere retaliates immediately, launching a full-scale invasion of Uganda. As defeat becomes inevitable, Amin publicly challenges Nyerere to settle the war with a boxing match between the two. The Tanzanian president ignores him, and his army presses on, capturing Kampala in April 1979, forcing Amin to flee the country. Amin flees first to Libya, then to Iraq, and finally to Saudi Arabia, where the royal family, recognizing him as a fellow Muslim, grants him refuge in the city of Jeddah. He is housed in a modest hotel, along with one of his wives and 25 of his 60 children. In exile, Amin gives an interview to the BBC, smiling, pretending that the atrocities of his rule never happened, insisting that his people still love him, and adding that he would gladly return to power if Ugandans wanted him back.
I can. If Ugandans wants me, I will.
In the 1980s, he secretly attempts to leave Saudi Arabia under a fake passport bound for Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. His mission, to raise a rebel army and retake Uganda. But the fantasy collapses instantly. He is intercepted at the airport in Zaire, denied entry, and shuffled between Senegal and Congo several times before finally being readmitted to Saudi Arabia. After King Hassan II of Morocco personally pleads with the Saudis to show mercy and take him back. There in Jeddah, the once conqueror of the British Empire lives quietly, obese, diabetic, forgotten. On top of his many self-bestowed titles, he adds one last, declaring himself also a fruitarian, claiming to eat only oranges every day. To be precise, Jaffa oranges, an Israeli brand of oranges. A bitter irony for the man who once vowed to destroy Israel, now surviving on its fruit. In 2003, as he lies in a coma, his wife appeals to Uganda's president, Yoweri Museveni, asking permission for Amin to return home. Museveni refuses, declaring he must face justice if he returns. That August, Idi Amin dies in a Saudi hospital. He is later buried in a simple grave in Jeddah, where the myth of Idi Amin ends, and the man is all that remains.